Welcome back to my channel. It's the old head abroad, KJ Mack. Thank you for joining me again. In this video, I want to talk to you about a report that I just saw in El Tiempo newspaper here in Colombia. As you know, I am in Bogotá, Colombia right now. In the report in El Tiempo, they reported that in February and March of this year, 2025, there were 183 homicides in Bogotá. So that's an alarming number for a 2-month period. 183 homicides. And I know if you're someone who's planning on visiting Bogotá, if you're planning on visiting here, or if you're planning on living in Bogotá, you're probably going to hear those numbers and ask yourself, is Bogotá safe? And so that's what I want to talk about in this video. I want to put everything into context, and hopefully I can put you at ease with everything. So first, let's talk about let's talk about Bogotá in itself. You hear 183 homicides and you think, wow, that's a lot for a city. But let me just tell you, Bogotá is a large city. It's a large, sprawling city. There's over 8 million people living here, and that's 8 million people spread out over 20 municipalities. Bogotá has municipalities. I'm sorry. There's 8 million people spread out over 20 localities. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, so there's 20 localities in Bogotá. It's just like the boroughs in New York. New York has 5 boroughs. Bogotá has 20 localities. And so in the El Tiempo report, one thing they did mention is that out of the 183 homicides that happened, 80% of those happened in 7 localities. Alright, so it was pretty localized, and it was mostly in the southern parts of the city. Right now I'm here up in the northern part of Bogotá, in the far north, which is considered a more affluent and safer area of Bogotá. Alright, now another thing that I want to mention is, the homicides were concentrated in a certain area, but also a lot of the homicides were tied to organized crime. Here in Colombia, sicarios is still very common here in Colombia. Sicario is the Spanish word for hitman. So it is still a very common thing for people to hire sicarios. So that's where a lot of your homicides, that's how they happen here. That's where they occur at. It's usually through like some type of organized hit here, a targeted attack. Alright, so it's very rare here in Bogotá to see random homicides, as far as on a local citizen or a foreign tourist. Those things are really rare for that to happen here in Bogotá. Alright. Now, previously I did a video here on YouTube where I talked about the 50 largest cities in the world. I talked about the 50 cities in the world that had the highest homicide rates. The 50 most dangerous cities in the world. Alright, and I did mention in that video that on that list of the 50 most dangerous cities in the world as far as homicide rate, Bogotá was not on that list. So on that list of the 50 most dangerous cities in the world with the highest homicide rates, there were 7 American cities. There were 7 cities that are on the U.S. mainland, and then you also had San Juan, Puerto Rico. So that's 8 cities right there that are pretty much American cities that were on that list, and Bogotá wasn't one of them. Just to do a comparison. Alright, so like I said, it's an alarming number, but Bogotá really, it just doesn't. Bogotá is just not as dangerous as it might make you think. Now, how was my life living here in Bogotá? I feel safe. I haven't had any issues here. I've been living here for about a year now. And, I walk the streets. Right now I'm sitting out here in the park, I go to restaurants. I've been out, a couple of times, like in the nightlife. I mean, I don't do that much nightlife, but I have been out. I use Ubers, get around the city. Like I said, right now I'm sitting in the park. I'm shooting this video with my Sony ZV-E1. It is sitting on a tripod. It's got a shotgun mic attached to it. So, yeah, I got my whole setup out here. And, I'm pretty safe. So, it's been pretty much my life here. I haven't had any problems here, So now, let me just give you some safety advice for when you come to Bogotá. The most important thing is, where are you going to be staying at if you come to Bogotá? Now, I recommend, out of the 20 localities here, the 2 that are most recommended for you to stay in would be here where I am right now in Usaquén. Usaquén is a very safe locality. Has probably the lowest violent crime rate in Bogotá. And then you also have just below us, just south of Usaquén, is Chapinero. And Chapinero also is, probably the nicer part of Chapinero. So those are probably the 2 areas I would recommend that you would stay in if you're going to come here to visit this city. And as far as hanging out, Zona T is the entertainment district here in Bogotá, and that is located in Chapinero. That's a pretty nice area. That's where a lot of your bars and nightclubs are, restaurants, down in Zona T. And Park 93 is right next to Zona T. Very affluent, upscale little neighborhood there. Some of your best hotels are right there in that Park 93 area, and restaurants and everything. And then you have the gastronomy district, which is Zona G. That's in Chapinero too. Some of the top restaurants in Bogotá, some of the top restaurants in all of, Latin America, in Zona G. So those are areas that that you would spend your time in, Now, another safety tip I would give you is obviously with your transportation, you're going to want to make sure that you're using Uber or Cabify. And, you also have the DD app, for transportation. But, usually Uber or Cabify is what you would use, to get around the city. Now, for those of you that like to imbibe, in alcohol, you like to drink and everything, my advice to you would be, don't go out and get sloppy drunk. That's not a good idea to go out and get drunk and be stumbling all around. You don't want to do that here. So you want to make sure you keep your wits about you. When you go out. Now, obviously you don't want to get flashy here either. You want to keep your cell phone. Keep your cell phone kind of hidden. Don't walk around with your cell phone all out in your hand and stuff. And the other thing that I recommend is in Colombia, you don't really need to have any jewelry on either. Watches, bracelets, gold chains and stuff like that, any kind of necklaces. Stay away from that. Don't be too flashy out here in the streets. Just try to keep yourself a little bit more low key. So that's your best bet. So those are just some safety tips to you. Now, now is Bogotá. Like I said, it's a large city. But I still consider it, relatively safe in most areas. But I don't like to sell no fantasy about it. Like you're just gonna come in, everything's gonna be okay. The main thing is just use good common sense. When you come here, and just be careful. With your situational awareness, and it also helps if you learn some basic Spanish when you come here. Learn your basic Spanish phrases, stuff like that. That helps you a lot. Keeping you safe. Alright, so, you know, in the comments, you know, saying if you still have any kind of questions about Bogotá, you know, feel free to ask me. You know, because I am here in the city. You know, saying I can help you out with that. Yeah, and you know, make sure that you check my link tree in the description. Yeah, because I have you know, a Colombia relocation starter pack in my link tree that's available. I also have the Expat, you know, Money Master for people that, you know, planning on moving overseas. And you can also schedule like one-on-one consultations with me. You know, if you plan on visiting Colombia or, you know, moving to Colombia. Yeah, so check my link tree in the description, you know. And of course, you know, ask me whatever question you need about visiting Bogotá. And make sure you, you know, like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You know, like and share this video and subscribe to my channel. You know, I appreciate all of your support, you know. So thank you for tuning in, man. And I'll get back to you with another video. This is KJ Mack, the old head abroad.